Happy Thursday, everyone. I'm Minty Bets. This is Teddy Covers, and we're going to do a Capping MLB in 2020, the COVID Chronicles. Whether you're watching this live or on a replay, today is a very special day because it is MLB Opening Day 2020, and we know that 2020 has been a very unpredictable year. So I'm excited. I know Teddy is kind of excited for today. So, Teddy, what's going on in your mind? What are your thoughts and feelings?
Well, yeah, I'm excited. I mean, let's not understate it, okay? It's been a long time since I've had significant action on a real game. Months and months and months. And I'm in action tonight. I expect to be. I'm more looking forward to tomorrow than today because I like to have. My office. I got the 3 TVs set up, and I like to have all 3 TVs with games on, and that's how I immerse myself. Switching the volume from one to the other based on what you want to hear. And not that one game and then another game isn't a bad thing. It's a great thing. We're hungry. We're very hungry. But, of course, and we don't know we're going to have 2 games tonight. There's rain in the potentially affecting the Nationals and Yankees this evening. But for as excited I am about the opening Sunday of the NFL or the full first Saturday of college football, like if this is like the Thursday night game for the opening week of the NFL, we get a taste. Tomorrow's a real deal. But it's been a long time. I'm in action. I'm very excited about being in action. I'm excited about being in action in a sport that I handicap, that I think I know something in. Frankly, I'm going to be involved tomorrow, probably more than I normally am at this time of the year. For this time of the year, meaning the second day of the season. There's no time to waste. When we see things, we're going to have to bet them right away. We're not going to see wait till they develop. We're going to get involved before the markets catch up. And that's going to be a big portion of what we're talking about today.
So true. All right, Teddy, let's get us started. Before that, let me say hi to everyone who just hopped on the chat. Hustle Wilson says, hi, Teddy. Hi, Minty. James, hey, Bell or Abel, depending what country you're in. The director, Beach Boss. Hey, guys, what's up? So, Teddy, let's get right into capping MLB in 2020. I've been getting last-minute questions on how you're approaching MLB during this time. Juan Soto just tested positive for the Nationals today, so he's out for today. This is like some last-minute news that we're going to have to kind of get used to, right?
Absolutely. And it's, when you talk about how the markets are going to move on game day, normally the markets will move on game day, obviously based on the action they're getting, but the action that they're going to be getting is going to be based on the advanced metric stats. And that's going to be who the wise guys love or whatever info they found or what kind of velocity rates they're seeing. It's largely based on the starting pitching matchups. In the COVID world, what's going to happen is the lines are going to get set based on the starting pitching matchups, and they're going to go nuts because the market's going to overreact to every time a player comes in or out or in or out. I saw a great quote earlier today from one of the sportsbook managers over at the Westgate race and sportsbook, talking about how some of these guys are going to be worth 30 cents. And he's like, no position player is ever worth 30 cents.
No.
Or rarely. He's like, the overreaction to the injuries or the COVID or whatever it is likely to be a big factor in the marketplace this year. And value searching bettors may well be looking to bet on some of those teams who are missing key guys like the Nationals.
Okay. All right. So, Teddy, take us to number one. What's number one for capping in COVID at MLB?
Yeah, and I thought about different ways to do today's pod because some of it is going to be comparable to a pod we did, I don't know, a month or a month and a half ago, talking about some of the things we're looking for in MLB. But I didn't want to do an every game on the board pod. I didn't want to do a team preview pod. I didn't think they were, by this stage of the game, you don't want team previews, necessarily. Yeah. I hope. And every game on the board, I kind of, that's something that I usually do with Drew on Mondays. 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern time. You can find that also on the Wager Talk and Sports Memo YouTube channel. So I figured the way to do it is to keep with this top 10 format. Of course, you know me, I put 11 in. But to keep the same style of format that we've been using, and then kind of go through the factors and things that were, things that are worth noting that are going to be different this year than perhaps they were last year and in other years. But let me start. I don't even have a number for this, but let me start with the fact that baseball is still baseball. It hasn't become a different sport. You're still going to be looking for, which teams can create runs, which teams can get out, which starters have dominant stuff, which teams can get bullpen outs, which teams can close out games, et cetera, et cetera. The basic fundamentals for baseball handicapping do not change in 2020. That said, we talk about the first thing on the list, home field. Minty, how much is home field worth this year?
Worth this year? Yeah. I don't know if it's really, to me, it's neutral, home or away, honestly.
Well, I mean, the home team's still sleeping in their own bed. In theory.
And away they still do travel. So you're right. I guess there is a little bit, but not as edgy as it once was with the fans and the crowd and all the motivation, I guess.
This is the right answer to that question. The answer is we don't know. I don't know. You don't know. The bettors don't know. The bookmakers don't know. Ain't nobody knows what the home field is worth.
Okay. I don't appreciate the trick question, Teddy.
Trust me, it won't be the last one.
Okay.
But the whole point is that we're allowed to say I don't know. All right. We have to say I don't know. If you're going to look at me and say this is how much travel is worth, this is how much the home field is worth, and it's worth this much for every team, I'm going to look at you and say, going to take your action.
Okay.
It's nobody knows. Nobody. Okay. So adjusting on the fly. Normally, home field is worth what, about 30 cents in the market? I shouldn't. It's worth 20 to 30 cents each way. The neutral versus one team versus the other team. So in this instance, what is this? Is a home field worth a nickel? Is it worth a quarter? We don't know, and it's likely to be different team by team. So one of the things I'm going to be doing early and often is this home field worth anything? How much is this worth? Finding home fields that are worth something, finding home fields that are worth nothing. And if you can simply identify this home field's worth something, this team's coming to play, they got a nice rhythm at home, this home field's worth nothing. If you can find that, I guess that little edge, find one team where it's worth something and one team where it's worth nothing, you'll get 20 cents, 30 cents, the best of it, betting on or against that team on a consistent basis till the markets catch up. So making quick adjustments on the fly. How much is home field worth? I'm going to have my initial set of ratings after the very first series of the season.
Ooh, all right. So next up, travel. What is it worth, Teddy?
Well, there's less travel this year. There's still travel. They're still traveling between their zones, but there is no West Coast, East Coast travel. There are none of the dead travel spots. And you talk about when the games are being played and all of that. MLB, whether you agree with them or disagree with them, they went with a night-heavy schedule as opposed to all-day, all-night schedule.
Yeah.
Which, when you don't have the day games, the travel is easier. Is travel worth anything? One of the classic spots for MLB, your West Coast, you played a West Coast trip, you got to fly east, you come back, you're flat as a pancake the next day. That spot's gone. We're not going to see that this year. So when you talk about these travel spots and they're non-existent, well, there's still going to be some travel, but adjusting the appropriate worth of the travel spots. Is that worth a nickel? Is that worth 2 cents? Is that worth 10 cents? Again, it's going to be an adjustment process. My initial thoughts on travel is not going to be worth a whole lot, but it's still going to be worth something when you get on a plane and fly, a couple hours. It's still worth something. So if the markets completely discount travel, well, then there may be some value betting on the team that is going against the traveler. If the markets overreact to travel spots, it could easily be the other way. So certainly this is another unknown coming into the season that the market's going to have to adjust to. And you and I, Minty, as well as everyone in the chat and everyone else going to have to adjust to. Whoever makes the appropriate adjustments quicker is going to make more money, plain and simple.
All righty, Teddy, we're getting a lot of questions on your thoughts on today's games. I know you're not super crazy about them. You're more into Friday's games, but I'll ask you at the end because there are a lot of
Sure, I'm in action on one of the two games tonight. Unfortunately, my line, it has got, wow.
What is it at now?
It was starting to get away early in the morning, and now it's really gotten away.
Ooh, I can't. Okay, I'm gonna check in a second.
Well, we'll talk about it. We'll tease you. We'll make you stick around till the end.
Stay tuned. All right, next up, Teddy. What do you got for us?
So number 3 is, and this is a big one, okay? Fewer off days. What does it matter? Over the course, you know what MLB seasons are like. You have Monday, the team gets a Monday off, they get a Thursday off. They have and those off days allows you to get the bullpen right.
Right.
And that, to me, is the key. Much of my handicapping for 2020 is bullpen-based and bullpen-related. Again, the starting pitchers, they'll price right. They'll be priced right fairly quickly. The bullpens won't. So when we talk about fewer off days, what does it matter? It's real simple. The teams with the starting pitching that isn't holding up and the bullpens that are getting rocked, they're not going to have a chance to reset. And they will continue to be bet against teams and or over teams.
Okay.
So these streaks where you find a team that's just getting smacked, and it's going to whoever it is, whether it's the Mariners or the Pirates or the Marlins or whoever it is, it's going to, some of these bottom feeders are going to have a really rough time. Really rough time. And when you don't get that day off to just, you know what a day off's like. We don't get them during football season. But you get a day off, you breathe for a minute. You have a chance to, all right, well, and then you can think about your next task at hand in a much calmer and stabler way than you can when I got to go do it again the next day and the next day and the next day. The off days for streak riders, the lack of off days is a big deal. In particular, we're talking about the teams with the weaker starting pitching and therefore the bullpens that get worn down. Some of these bad streaks are going to get really bad, and I intend to ride early and often.
Okay, good tip. Yes, you're right. There are very few days off for these teams. Maybe like 1, 2 at most, if I saw correctly.
Yeah,
no?
I think four scheduled days off.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, but are they consecutive? No. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Is they only have like 1 day off, and then they continue, and
Sure. I mean, that's the way the season always is to the All-Star break. But there are few. They'll be playing 2 weeks and get a day off, kind of a deal. There's not going to be any. Let's get right. Let's reset our pitching staff. Let's give our bullpen 2 days off. That's not going to be easy for the teams that are struggling.
Not at all. All right, number 4, rule changes. Teddy.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a lot about the rule changes. And if you've been obviously you're an MLB capper, you're watching the show, you've paid attention to some of the stuff. I'm going to focus on the 2 that matter the most.
Okay.
The first one, obviously, the runner starting on second base in extra innings. Okay. We're going to see more runs in extra innings. You have to.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. When you put that into play with the one that I think is going to have the biggest impact on totals, the 3-batter rule for relief pitchers. Now, if they get out of the inning, they don't have to face 3 batters. But within an inning, the manager can't go, I'm going to start with this guy, I'm going to bring in the lefty for the one lefty, and then I'm going to go to that guy.
Yep.
That's no longer a strategy in MLB in 2020. And when
I like
you have I'm sorry, Minty, just let me finish this thought. But when you have a relief pitcher that comes in and it's clear, sometimes the guy comes into the bullpen and it's clear he doesn't have it today. And that first batter, he gets rocked, and the manager comes right out and takes him out and brings somebody else in. Well, now he's got to face 3 batters. The 3-batter rule for relief pitchers, in my belief, it really, really is going to affect totals. And in particular, it's going to be beneficial for over bettors. When you look at the card, okay, we've seen a ton of over money in one game for tonight. The broader market, when we look at tomorrow's games, there's only one game line higher than 9, and there's 1-9. Everything else is 8.5 or lower.
Wow.
And the 9's in Texas, and the 9.5 is in Boston with 2 starting pitchers that people don't trust. Everything else 8, 8.5, 7.5, 7. When we start talking about that 3-batter rule, okay, I don't know, 7.5, 7s, 8s, 8.5s. The markets aren't where I think that they need to be total wise. And I personally would be looking to bet overs early and often until the markets catch up to that particular rule. That is a huge rule for late when it comes to late inning meltdowns. And when it comes to late inning meltdowns, that's where overs cash, even overs that don't deserve to cash. So that's a rule change to me that matters a lot. And then you throw in the fact that if it's an extra inning game, you're likely to get multiple runs. I'm looking to bet overs early in the season. Absolutely. Yep. And that's, we talk about it all the time. I said I teased to the end of the show. I can't tease at the end of the show. Obviously, the one thing that's been moving like crazy, the money's coming on the Yankees. Yes, pouring in on the Yankees tonight. The money's also pouring in on the Giants, Dodgers over. There were 7.5s available last night. 8 was a prevailing in the overnight hours, and now it's pretty much 8.5. And 8.5, even the -20 in a lot of spots. So the markets are certainly expecting runs in bunches in LA. I don't disagree with that assessment. I have some over on the Dodgers and Giants already in my pocket. It's a bet that I've advised my clients to make as well.
There you go, folks. There's a pick that Teddy just gave us there. Also, I 100,000% agree with you on that. We're going to see a lot more runs. Balls are more juiced, I think, and especially with these rule changes of the relief pitcher with the 3-batter minimum. So I 1,000% agree with you. That's why I was nodding the whole time.
And the one thing we got to say, we haven't talked about the ball being juiced, and I didn't want to start all conspiracy. The ball is juiced. The ball is juiced. The ball is juiced. We have to, from a theoretical perspective. I'm going into the season thinking the ball's juiced a little bit. It's to MLB's advantage for the ball to be juiced a little bit. Chicks dig the long ball.
Yes. They're great games. The exhibition games were actually really fun to watch, so I'm excited to see the regular season start. All right, Teddy, let's move on to number 5. What do you got for us?
So I went and looked, and I didn't look at the first 50 games, the first thing. I just went and looked at June 1st last year, the standings on June 1st.
Okay.
Last year, on June 1st in the standing, in the NL, the Pirates were 4.5 games up on the Nationals. You understand? Through the first, it was 56, 57 games. The Nats are 24-33. The Pirates are 28-28. All right. The Nats won the World Series. The Pirates didn't get to 70 wins. But for the entirety of, or almost the entirety of what this season is going to look like, Pittsburgh had the better record than Washington. What does that mean? It means we have to expect random teams to get hot or stay cold. And there's less time, much less time, for a reversion to the mean. You say, the Pirates can't keep, the Nats can't keep losing games, and then they lose 33 of their first 57. When you have a 162-game season, they have enough time to figure it out, get hot, make the playoffs, and end up winning the World Series. When it's a 60-game season, you're 24-33, bye-bye. So there's going to be some, and maybe even a fair bit of absolute randomness, which, again, we talk about where you're going to find value. I'm going to find value riding streaks. I'm expecting some random team to get hot and stay hot, and I'll make money with them. I'm expecting another random team that's supposed to be good to open cold and stay cold. And, again, if with this level of pressure, a little losing streak, man, all of a sudden, we got time to figure it out. Nobody has time to figure it out. Players will start pressing. I really am looking to ride streaks, and that has much less to do with how good the teams actually are. Again, the Nats and the Pirates last year, pretty big dichotomy between how good those teams actually were. It's not about how good they actually are. It's about current form. And if you can ride this current form and make money with it, it's going to be a solid season.
All right. Let's move on to key stats in baseball. Next up.
Sure. But you got to talk for a second. I need one sip.
Okay, no problem. All right, guys. Let's stay appropriate in the chat room, please. Okay, keep going, Teddy.
All right, good. And boy, you got Prez talking to you on the one side, you got Johnny on the other, and you got the comments in the chat. I don't know how you do it.
I know, and I'm supposed to text Prez when you're almost done and also listen, and I'm like, okay, well, I want to hear this too, so keep going.
Exactly. So look, when we talk about key stats in baseball, what do the markets factor in the most? It's all about the starting pitching. And again, this is something that we talked about on a previous pod, but it's important to, when people say, why is this line where it is? Oh my God, so-and-so is so cheap, or how can they be $2 when they should be, my line for them, I thought they were going to be 140. All right. Baseball money lines are all about the starting pitching. And we talk about the stats that matter. Okay. Velocity rate, how fast he's throwing his fastball. Strikeout to walk ratio. The 5-to-1 guys get a lot of attention. The 4-to-1 guys get attention. The 1-to-1 guys get bet against. FIP, fielding independent pitching, or XFIP, which is adjusted fielding independent pitching based on ballpark and opponent. Those are as far more important than anything like ERA or WHIP or the type of stats that you'll see mainstream. FIP and XFIP. FIP are, that's how these lines are being set. Pitchers, what's their line drive rate? What's their hard hit rate? Their ground ball to fly ball ratio. These are not stats you're going to find in mainstream publications, but these are the only stats that matter when it comes to MLB and the betting markets, literally. The metrics, the advanced metrics, if you want to put it into two basic rules, the advanced metrics, they hate walks and they hate fly balls. So the pitchers who have control and keep the ball on the ground tend to be rated higher. The pitchers who walk batters and give up fly balls tend to be rated a little bit lower. So what do we look for? We look for pitchers who walk too many batters and give up too many fly balls, who are still effective. And the markets will never recognize those pitchers. Chris, I always go back to Chris Young from the Royals, because this is the guy whose XFIP every year was 2 runs higher than his ERA. And every year the markets are like, this guy stinks, this guy stinks, this guy stinks. And every year opposing hitters, you read the quotes, are like, well, the fact that he's 6'10", it makes it really hard to hit even though we hit the fly balls, we don't get them out of the park. And every year I make money with that guy. For years and years and years. And there are pitchers like that. So if you can find the good pitchers who walk too many batters and give up too many fly balls, you can make money with those guys. If you find a bet against pitcher with great velocity or a really good strikeout to walk ratio, but he can't keep the ball in the park or has some other weakness, that could be an easy fade. Recognize how the lines are being set and recognize the weaknesses of those lines. What do the metrics hate? We know what the metrics hate. That means the markets hate that. That means you can find pitchers who don't fit into their neat little boxes. You can make money with those guys, because make no mistake about it, the MLB betting markets is syndicate driven. It's big better driven. So if the little bettors, and in this instance, I'm a little better. A guy who's betting 5 dimes a game is a little better. The syndicates are putting real money down. Okay, so the little better, the average guy, you're betting. If you can find stuff that the syndicates who are looking to get down as much as they can on as many games as they can, which whatever edge they think they have, if you can find the exceptions to those rules, you can legitimately make money in MLB. So know the key stats, recognize the markets are looking at those key stats, and try to find exceptions where the key stats aren't giving the true indication of how good a pitcher is.
All right, good stuff. Okay, next up, Teddy, number 7. Yeah.
So in a normal world, the biggest weakness in the betting market is current form. That's my opinion. When teams are consistently playing above or below their season-long statistical profile. Okay. If it happens early in the season, the markets catch up quickly. If it happens, I probably an NBA example. The Bucks are a great example, where the first 10 games are okay, and then all of a sudden, boom. 10 games in, they become really good. Or Let's talk about the Nats last year, who were 19 and 31, and then 24 and 33, and then boom, ended up winning the World Series.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to see the market solidify 10 days, 2 weeks, 3 weeks in. Between 10 and 20 days, the market's going to say this team's good, this team's bad, this surprise team's real, this surprise team isn't. Okay. From that point, where the markets have made their statement of, well, we thought this team was going to be good, but now we're not pricing them like they're good anymore. Like the Nats last year. From that moment, okay, where the markets are like, this is how good teams are, we're locked in. The adjustments are going to be, we're going to iterate as opposed to make big adjustments. Once that happens, and it's not like there's a party in the market's like, all right, we're locked in, but you see in the number. Once that happens, there's going to be money to be made riding teams whose current form does not measure the market valuation. The teams that are playing above or below their statistical profile. Okay, and that's not any different this year from other years. But the fact is, this year, one would think the markets are going to try to lock in, we love this team, we hate this team, as quickly as possible. So if you find a team that may well be bet on that the markets have already been selling, or a team that may be bet against that the markets have been buying, there may well be money to ride those teams for weeks, even months on end. That's not changing in a COVID betting world. And this, if ever there was a season to ride streaks in MLB, this is that season.
Wow. Yep. Ride them streaks, guys. Thanks for joining us today. Elliot, okay, you are taking up the entire chat. IB Galaxy, Roger. Roger says, where's Prez? We need Prez. Prez will be back shortly. Actually, he's not going to be here. He's just here to turn off and on the camera. Yeah. Yes, thanks, guys, for joining us and keeping the chat alive. All right, next up, Teddy. Go on.
Yeah, and in terms of where's Prez, Prez left the hot mic on in our ears. Yeah.
Earlier.
Yeah, and he was swearing, which I sometimes I swear in air, but I try not to. But when someone's swearing in your ear in the background, it's not we don't want Prez right now. We'll save him.
Sorry, Roger. Yeah.
Let's talk about the nuance. And this is another thing that we'll talk about what the markets are going to pay attention to and what they're not. All right. Nuance in MLB doesn't get a lot of play. All right. Did the manager use his best relievers last night, and now today's maybe the throwaway game, and then tomorrow the big Sunday night game that the key relievers are going to be ready for? That stuff that, again, if you're paying attention on a day in, day out basis, if you're watching the games, you're going to find nuanced spots popping up. And as you understand the manager's goals and as you understand the team's goals, we talk about, I use this example in a previous pod, but the classic, the Saturday night, do they party or do they focus? Some teams win the first 2 games of the series, they party Saturday night, and Sunday they're laying $1.80 and you bet against them every time. Other teams are more focused on the sweep. The markets, the broader markets, aren't going to be involved in assessing the nuance. They're going to be involved in crunching the numbers. If we can find edges with the nuance as series progress, how does this series play out? Which guys, as the manager, sitting for which games? What key blend? And of all, the managers always tip their hands with what bullpen arms they use. When the key arms get used 2 nights in a row, they're not going the 3rd night. So those nuanced spots are really going to matter. And it's one area where the broader market's not likely to be focused on the nuance of the games that could give bettors who are paying attention to the details some advantage.
All right. Good point. Now, next up, we're almost there to the end. Teddy, take it away.
Sure. And I brought this up a little bit a moment ago, but I want to delve into it for a minute or two, okay? In terms of how the baseball market is different from some other betting markets, particularly football, where there is some public money and the NFL numbers do have to reflect that. Baseball money, okay? I don't care. The baseball lines are set for one reason. Beating wise guys, all right? Beating the syndicates. For the average Joe, all right, the fact that there's significant economic uncertainty, people have lost their jobs, people have lost, aren't as confident in the economy in the future as they were. Individual bettors have probably had to, withdraw some cash from their various accounts to make it through the downtimes. The syndicates haven't. The syndicates are well funded, so you're not looking at cash withdrawals to pay expenses. Mm-hmm. So what does that tell us? There's likely to be a little bit, and maybe not opening day or the first week, but realistically right now, the economic circumstances in the United States, where the majority of baseball bettors are, and the majority of my clients are, they're not great, to put it mildly. Okay, but so when you have fewer individual bettors getting involved on a game in, game out basis, but the wise guy money is still there, or maybe there's just as many individual bettors, but the guys who are betting $500, maybe now they're betting $200, and the guys who are betting $200, maybe now they're betting $100. The ratio of wise guy money to recreational players / semi-pro money, the ratio gets even greater in favor of the wise guy money. Okay, so when we say how are the markets going to react this year, I would expect, not that the public money has a whole lot of impact in MLB anyway, but there's not going to be any impact for public money. This is all wise guy money. So what does that tell us? It tells us the markets are going to move.
Okay.
Because the sharp, when as the big bets come in, the market adjusts, and they adjust significantly. So it's not going to be one of these years where, the markets aren't going to do anything. What's going on in the MLB? The wise guy money isn't there. I expect the wise guy money to be in, and the syndicate money to be in MLB. And if you're trying to figure out how to beat it, that's the money you got to beat. It's not about beating your friends, not about beating me. It's about getting a better read on something than the syndicates have, and then parlaying that or riding it over and over again to make your cash. So I'm not worried about the markets, the markets adjusting or over adjusting to. There's no the ratio of public money this year in MLB will be lower than it's been in any recent season. So recognize that it is a wise guy dominated marketplace, and the edges you're going to find have to be looking against that backdrop, if that makes sense.
Yes. We just got a question. Is Teddy a wise guy?
I don't bet at the level of the syndicates. I'm not a syndicate. I have spent my career hanging out with wise guys. So I am one who understands the methodology. I'm not someone that has multi-million-dollar betting accounts that I'm betting all day. Right.
All righty. Next question, number 10. This isn't the last one because we have 11 because Teddy gives 110%. Teddy, number 10, please.
I always do. I do 11 just because from this one goes to 11.
It's extra credit. Yeah.
Yeah. It's God, I'm getting old. I can't even think of the name of the stupid movie now, which is really embarrassing.
It's okay. I don't even know this movie.
I know it's like an early 80s. It's really gonna bug me. I'm going to have to look it up in a minute. Someone's going to answer it in the chat, please. And if no one can answer it in the chat...
You didn't even describe the movie.
All you need to know about the movie is this one goes to 11.
Okay.
Yeah. Someone please post in the chat, so help me, please.
Anybody.
If not, I'll look it up. It's the fake documentary about the heavy metal band. Rob Reiner directed it. It's from the early 80s, blah, blah, blah. I just can't think of the name of what the name of the band is. Number 10. Who can adjust on the fly better? And if you've noticed throughout the course of this talk, it's always adjusting. Who's going to adjust? Who's going to adjust on the fly? We are in unique circumstances. Okay. You said, thanks for throwing me under the bus when I asked you a question. I'm like, no, you're allowed to say we don't know. Okay. The answers are very clearly who's going to adjust on the fly better. We don't know. There may be league-wide trends developing. There may be team-specific trends developing. There may be very few trends and a whole lot of static. If you look for trends and angles, you'll always find them, but you won't necessarily know if they're meaningful in any way or predictive in any way moving forward. So what we have to ask ourselves, what we have to know this year, we know that the wise guys, the statistical profile guys are going to be betting and moving the markets. We know that the beat writers aren't going to have necessarily the same level of access that they've had. That said, if you're reading the beat writers and watching the games and getting the nuance, I think legitimately you may have an edge over the guys who are betting the stats. That's what I'm banking on, at least coming out of the gate. So adjusting on the fly is going to be a key factor in a season that is very short by MLB standards. Whoever does that better is going to make money, plain and simple.
Beautiful. All right, the movie you're looking for is Spinal Tap.
Thank you. God, that's embarrassing.
Thank you, Mike, Chris, and Johnny H. Pack. Mike also says, very funny when they got lost backstage. Great movie. I don't even know.
Sure.
Jamie, thank you. All right, last point.
I'm just embarrassed. I couldn't think of Spinal Tap. That's embarrassing. It's like forgetting Caddyshack or something. It's like one of those classic movies. When I was growing up, you can't forget the title. But yes, but that's why I always have 11. Or that's one of the reasons why. The truth of why I always have 11 is that I do 10 and then I think of one more. But this one it's just your standard. All right. Mm-hmm. The fundamentals do not change. What are the fundamentals? Have more outs. Shop for lines. If you're laying 190 when you should be laying 180, if you're taking 150 when you should be taking 155, if you're betting over 8.5 minus 120, you can bet over 8.5 minus 110. No, one bet's not going to kill you. Two bets not going to kill you. 5 bets aren't going to kill you. In a high volume sport like MLB, by the end of the season, that extra juice will eat you alive. It's the difference between making money and not making money. If you have one book you're betting at, get a second account today. If you have 2 books, get 3. You have 3 books, get 4. You have 4 books, get 5. You have 5 books, get 10. All right. I moved to Las Vegas not specifically because this was the center of the sports betting universe, but also the reason this was the center of the sports betting universe is because you can make bets at all these different properties, at all these different books, and you can line shop very easily in this town. It's getting easier to line shop in other states around the country. You have to be, I say it and I say it and I say it and I say it. I'm going to keep saying it. You have to be able to get the best of the number. You have to be able to beat the closing number. And that 5 cents on this game and 3 cents on that game and 10 cents on this game. And at the end of the year, it's 10 units worth of difference or 20 units worth of difference or 30 units worth of difference. Because of it's a high volume sport, you have to shop for lines. You have to have more outs. And there's no excuse not to. If you don't have enough money and all your money's in one account, guess what? Withdraw half your money, put it into another account. Okay. If you have $100, split it up into 4 $20 to $5 accounts. Get the accounts open. Take advantage of the bonuses that people are offering in many of the new states. And have the ability to say, oh, it's 8.5, it's 8.5. Say, oh, shoot, I can bet over 8 right here. Bang. Done. That's how you become a winning bettor.
Yep.
I can't give you better advice than that. I really can't. Have more outs. Shop for the best line. And that's that.
Yep. Very good stuff, Teddy. That was Teddy Covers capping during COVID Chronicles for MLB 2020. Now let's go through some of the questions that were asked earlier.
Sure.
Obviously, big season opener today in Nationals versus Yankees, Giants versus Dodgers. So let's see what the questions are. Oh, a super popular actually prop bet that I also saw Drew bet on, and our friend Abel asked, no runs scored in the first inning on Yankees Nats game. What do you think about that prop bet? No runs scored in that first inning?
So I know a lot of guys like betting that first inning prop. Yes, no. It's not something that I bet on a regular basis. I certainly wouldn't talk you out of that. Not with these 2 guys on the hill. And obviously not a couple of key guys missing. Obviously, we talked about Soto as one. And DJ's not playing for the Yanks today either. It's another big bet out of the lineup. So I wouldn't talk you out of the no, but it's not a bet that I made.
All righty, no problem. Faith first asked, With the legalization of sports betting nationwide, creating more competition amongst books, do you foresee juice being lowered across the board?
No. In fact, I'm seeing some disturbing trends.
Like,
Well, the advantage of Las Vegas or the Nevada market is that nobody dominates the market. So when books decide, well, we're going to go to a 20-cent line on baseball as opposed to a 10-cent line on baseball, other books are like, okay, we're going to stay at a 10-cent line on baseball and we're going to take all the action. Okay. What we're seeing in some places with the additional, even with the additional competition amongst books is, we're not seeing the lines drifting down to minus 108 both sides or minus 106 both sides. We're seeing them start to look minus 112 both sides. We're not seeing the books coming in that are offering the reduced juice option to claim market share right off the bat. And I would think that if a book came in and was aggressive in offering reduced juice options, that they would dominate market share and then be able to change that later on.
Right.
But right now, I'm not seeing that. I mean, the goal for all of us has to be the betting exchanges. The betting exchange take the bookies out of the equation. The platform gets a small piece. Your Betfairs of the world, your Matchbooks of the world, and the like. But those are not available for U.S. facing folks. But that's what I would love to see. Because that takes almost all the juice out of the equation, and the platform gets a little bit, but it's bettors betting with each other through the platform as opposed to the house taking a cut out of every bet. So I would love to see the exchanges, and if there's one thing that I would work for or look for, it'd be a U.S. betting exchange. But I'm not confident we're going to see that. This is why. You could tax the crap out of the books. That's why we have legal sports betting. It's not because they thought it was time to get legal sports betting. It's because they thought they could generate revenue. You can tax it. You can't tax the Betfairs of the world the same way. So from a tax standpoint, that's why I'm not confident that we're going to see the betting exchanges in the U.S. anytime soon. And from a competition standpoint, I haven't liked the way things have looked in even some competition states, Jersey, Pennsylvania. The reports I'm reading are not what I want to be reading in terms of how much the house takeout is. So no, I'm not seeing what I wanted to see there. Vegas is still better, much better than anywhere else.
Yeah, you heard that. Okay.
From a betting standpoint, it is. It's not, Atlanta. If you go down to Jersey, it's not as good. The option, there's not as many options, and the juice is higher. Same thing for Pennsylvania. It's not like they're the handle's there in Jersey already, but from a better friendly, the Nevada books it's not close. They're better.
Okay. All right. 2 more questions. Bashan Johnson asked, is Juan Soto news an overreaction? I know we kind of went over this. The line has moved up to Yankees favorite at minus 160 when I know it opened up, I believe, at minus 130, minus 135 for the Yankees. So you think it's an overreaction? We said yes earlier. Yes.
Yes. When it comes to position players sitting, that might be the biggest overreactions you find in the betting markets. The markets go crazy when somebody sits. It's not like the Nationals have no hitters. It's not like Scherzer can't. I mean, recognize Scherzer's a $1.50 dog at home right now. If I'm playing, I could only take Washington at that price. There's no chance I take the Yankees.
Okay. You can only take Washington at that price. Oh, interesting. All right. And then last, maybe second to last, opinion on the Blue Jays situation. I think he's referring to them playing at PNC Park instead of at home in Canada.
No, they got rejected from PNC Park yesterday. And
they did?
I was looking this morning, and I don't know where the hell they're going to play.
Oh, crap. So I didn't know either. Okay.
There's dumber bets to make right now than Blue Jays under their season win total.
Okay.
I wouldn't argue with anyone who wants to take Toronto under. This has to, and I don't know how many people will remember. Remember the Saints the year of Hurricane Katrina?
Mm-hmm.
It was, they had no home field.
Right.
And they were okay for about the first month or 5 weeks. And Aaron Brooks had that crazy game on Monday Night Football where they played really well. And about midway, even before midway through the season, being on the road every week, it just killed them. They died. They were out of gas.
Okay.
If the Blue Jays end up playing 60 road games, maybe not the first month, the second month, they might be fade every day.
Yikes. Okay, good point. All right, last thing, Teddy, I know you only have a bet going on for tonight's game, the Dodgers and the Giants game. Do you have any leans or free picks you can give these fine people that are all waiting for you in the chat?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
So, okay. I apologize. I'm still working the last 4 games. I haven't done for tomorrow. I haven't done Seattle, Houston, Arizona, San Diego, the Giants, Dodgers, or the A's and Angels for tomorrow. I have 4 games I'm interested in right now for tomorrow. Okay. We're looking at the Braves at a plus price. With the best road pitcher in baseball on the hill, against a guy who was dealing with back soreness and a Mets team. I would expect. I expect Atlanta to be in my pocket. I haven't bet it yet. Talk about an over team that I want to ride. I have to say the Cubs are my number 1 over team coming into the season.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, they're going to score runs, and they're going to give up runs. And I'm really looking to bet Cubs games over the total. I don't know if I want to do it necessarily on opening day with Hendricks and Woodruff, 2 guys that I kind of like, but on the other hand, the total's pretty low. So Cubs over is absolutely on my list. I'm debating between the Red Sox run line and the over in that game. I'm more likely to get run line than over. I have no hesitation betting against Baltimore in any way, shape, or form. And being that a week from now, this will probably be minus $3, and the week after that, it'll be minus $4. The Orioles do not have a major league team. So that's one that's on the short list. And I don't, when you talk about bullpens that are going to have really, really ugly showings, Baltimore's bullpen's going to have their fair share of meltdowns this year. And as a result, even though the Orioles can't hit, I'm not betting them under. They are not an under team for me because they're going to give up 10 runs and 10 runs again and 10 runs again. And we talk about that nobody gets an off day. Baltimore certainly a team that I was talking about when the starting pitching fails and then the bullpen fails behind them and you don't get an off day for another 8 days. Yeah, or it might be ugly for more. And last but not least, the Rockies. I have a buy sign on Colorado. I think Colorado is going to be a money-making team. Remember, they won 90 games 2 years ago. And last year everything went wrong for Colorado, but certainly Marquez, the guy I have no hesitation supporting, and there's a plus price with the Rockies. So that's out of the first how many games are there tomorrow? However many, what is there? Is there 15, 2, 4, 6,
14, I think. 14,
yeah. So out of the first 10 of again, I haven't gone through the last 4 games to make my short list yet, but I actually had expected to have it done before I got on air, but sometimes the phone rings in the morning, Minty, and you got to deal with it.
Okay.
So, that's where I'm at in terms of the first 10 games. Those are the 4 that I'm interested in.
All righty. Those are the 4 that I have not even looked at. I looked at the Reds game. Oh, what else? The Angels game that night. Totally opposite of you. So cool. That's great. We have different opinions. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. We are out of time. It is almost 1:00 here on the West Coast. Thank you so much, Teddy Covers, for your opinions and your thoughts and your picks. And everyone, thanks for joining us throughout the whole chat. Thanks for your questions. Join us. I don't know. Is this going on next week? Join us next week. I don't know what our status is because whatever. Anyway, Prez is looking at me. Okay.
I think that the new format with the new shows is starting at the beginning of August. So I do think that we'll be here, next week. The week of August 3rd is when we'll do our transition. But I think that I'm not 100% sure.
All righty. Follow Teddy Covers at Teddy_Covers on Twitter and Wager Talk at Wager Talk on Twitter. Thanks, guys.
Cheers.